Hi everybody, this is Ryan from the Headwaters Science Center. I'm one of the educators here, but today we're actually going to be doing a little bit of, I guess what you could call collections work. I have with me today an item from our collection that we are bringing up onto the main exhibit floor to show to the guests. And so what I'm going to be doing is basically just getting it ready for that, making it look a little cleaner, a little nicer than what we necessarily need it to be when it's down in the basement. And so what I have is a skull that you can see here, and what this is a skull of is a black bear, and as you can see on the top it has a number written on it right here, BSC 1300, and what that number means is that we have this documented and in our system as something we own. It's an accession number, and so we have a computer system that mostly lives in the basement, but we could go in and type that number in and it would tell us some details about this skull, what kind of animal it's from, where we got it from, that type of thing. But as you can see, it's a little dirty, especially on this side over here. And, you know, we don't really mind it being a little dirty when it's sitting down in the basement, but if we're going to take it out and have it sitting on the exhibit floor, we just want to clean it up a little bit, make it look a little nicer for the guests. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. And you can see actually we have the top, this would be the cranium, but we also have the mandible too. So, and you can see it has that, actually that same number on it, that BSC 1300 is right on there. And looks like it even has the scientific name of the species written on it too. So, it's, the U would be the genus, and I would assume it's Ursae, Ursus is what bears are. And then Americanus, which I assume is black bear. And so, I actually had a volunteer just yesterday go through with a little bit heavier, kind of, not wire brush, but a little bit denser brush, and hit this a little bit already just to get some of the big kind of chunks of dirt off. What I'm going to be doing here is taking a couple little finer brushes, and like I said, just trying to spruce it up a little bit more. And so I'm going to start with this guy here, and this is just like a kitchen brush, the type of thing you would use to brush off your fruits and veggies in the kitchen. It even has a peeler on the back. When I'm doing this type of stuff, brushes are good. Wire brushes I usually try to avoid using just because they'll scratch the bone sometimes. So even something like this is a little bit more coarse than I would generally use, but this is just what I happen to find around the Science Center to do this with. If you're interested in cleaning or preparing bones for yourself in your own house, one really good thing to have is bamboo. Like when I'm doing this on my own time at home, I have these little bamboo stakes that I'll use when I'm doing my cleaning. The bamboo is really great because it is, stiff, it's rigid, you can use it to break up dirt and things like that, but it also will not scratch the bone because it's softer. It's something I learned when I was doing some archaeology work before I started getting into museums. The other thing a lot of people will do is boil their bones. And boiling is good in that it works really fast. The challenging part about boiling is it can damage the bones underneath. Also, the thing that'll happen a lot of the times with boiling is you'll start to get fat that will seep into the bones and kind of make it look kind of yellowish. Which happens to a certain degree with ones that are naturally decayed as well. You can see like the skull has got a little bit of a yellowish hue to it, and that's from fat. And I assume this skull is one that was just found out in the woods somewhere by somebody. And this is still not the finest brush I'm going to use, so I'm just going by and kind of hitting it in the areas that seem the most dirty so I can get the coarser grime off. And then my next step is going to be actually using a toothbrush to get into the really fine nooks and crannies there. Then a lot of times when you see skulls or other bones out on an exhibit floor in a museum, they'll be very white. You know, I actually brought an example one up here with me. Something like this is what you'll see a lot of the times out on display pieces. And this is actual bone, but this is one that has likely been treated with something. They say bleaching. They don't actually use bleach on the bones. Usually what it is a hydrogen peroxide solution that you soak it in, and that kind of whitens the bones and makes them nice and pretty like that. If you look really closely, there's a lot of really small, really fine, really thin bone in there. Those are called turbinates. And turbinates are something that all animals, I think, all land-dwelling animals at least, have in their nose. And like I said, it's basically this really thin, really fragile bone. And the idea of them is they add more surface area inside the nose, which has value for a few reasons. So, having a lot of turbinates or a lot of turbination will oftentimes give you a better sense of smell, because there's more surface area in there for scent particles to pass over. It can also be kind of valuable as far as temperature regulation, too. So more surface area means the air passes across more skin on its way in, more blood vessels, so the air gets more heated on its way into your nose. So it's one thing you'll see kind of more prevalently actually in a lot of northern animals is these really highly turbinated noses, because they're breathing in cold air and they want to warm it up before it gets down to their lungs. So having the extra surface area helps. It also helps a little bit with oxygen absorption too. So I can think of it like the gills in a fish. You know, it's a lot of surface area that's there just to maximize the amount of oxygen you can take in at one time from a given amount of, for fish, water, but for us, air. So another tool I have with me here today is just a spray bottle. And this just has, mine has RO water in it, so deionized reverse osmosis water. And tap water works just as well, but this was just a spray bottle I happened to find. What I'm doing is I'm not getting it super wet, I'm just giving it a little bit of a misting, just to help get some of this grime unstuck a little bit. So it's an example of, museum practice in action. We were gonna, what's called deaccession this, get rid of it, find someone else to take it, but all of a sudden there was a need for it, and so now we're keeping it and using it, at least for now. Something else that's kind of interesting that I'm kind of noticing here is, if you look at the side of the jaw here, see this orange stuff on it, or brown, orange, whatever you want to call it. I'm not 100% sure what that is. I assume it's adhesive. One of the things that'll happen a lot of the times when you're prepping these skulls and cleaning these skulls is the teeth will start coming loose, teeth will start falling out, and so you gotta glue them back in, and I assume that's what that is. So it's not the cleanest job I've ever seen, but teeth aren't falling out, so I guess it's doing its job. And like I said, this wasn't necessarily a specimen that we planned on having out on the exhibit floor, so we were less concerned about appearances than we were about keeping it all in one piece. Yeah, I think we'll take a pause there. I'm gonna come back with a rag and we're gonna try and clean this a little bit more. Okay, and I'm back. And I was able to find a couple tools here. I mentioned I was going to get a rag, but I also found a couple popsicle sticks. I mentioned earlier that I like to use bamboo sticks when I'm cleaning these, but these will do almost as well. And these are just nice, because they let you kind of dig at the kind of caked on stuff a little more, but you don't have to worry about it scratching the bone itself. And so I think first what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pass with these popsicle sticks. You can just see kind of these little spots like this that weren't really coming off with the brush, but if I get at them with the popsicle stick, and I do still have to be a little careful because bone is kind of fragile. More scraping more so than I'm pressing. Because if you press too hard, you might punch a hole through it. But this will give me something I can use to get some of this caked on stuff a little more easily than just working it with the brush. So the one thing I'm kind of interested in is this big dark spot here. So I want to try and get that cleaned up, but I'm not sure exactly. It almost looks like it's the bone itself is kind of stained there, so I'm a little worried of trying to take too much of that off unless I damage the bone underneath. But I'm going to try. The other thing I mentioned a little while ago was the stuff in the nose. And again, if you can see in there, it's kind of dirty inside. It's kind of dirty in the back too. And those are areas that you really just can't reach with a brush. So I think when I'm done here, my last cleaning step on this guy, at least for now, is going to be just taking him to the sink and running some water. And I'll go in the back here. This is the hole where the spine would go in. It's called the foramen magnum. And I'm just going to try and run it through and out the nose and hope I can clean some of that grime out just by doing that. Because, I could go in there and I could, swish around in there and pull that out, but I would damage those bones in there, and if I can avoid that, I would like to. You can see all the gunk pulling off of that spot. You can see it's already starting to get a little lighter. So I think now I'm going to go through and try and wipe some of this down with the rag just to see what I can get off. One of the areas you'll see stuff kind of gets caught on and something kind of cool just fell out. It's a dead bug, a little beetle just fell out of it. And like I said, I'm pretty sure this is a specimen that was probably just found out in the woods more or less like this, and we probably didn't do a whole lot of cleaning on it when we got it. So all that stuff, all that grime is just stuff from the forest floor. And if there's one thing that likes getting into skulls, it's bugs. So finding shed shells and dead bugs and these types of things is pretty common. There's another, looks like a shell casing of something. But one of the areas that can be kind of challenging as far as cleaning are kind of anywhere where there's a sort of a tight little nook or cranny. So, like I said, that big spot on the top was right here. And so you can see there's a hole there. There's one on the other side too. And so those are more what are called foramen. And what foramen are holes where nerves would come to the surface. And foramen are something that we have too, and we actually have them in a lot of the same places that like a bear would, for example. So, a real common one that you probably encounter more than most is we have two foramen right here on either side of our chin. And like if you ever gotten Novocaine at the dentist, that's where they inject it. And actually you can see on our bear, it's got them right there too. But we have them all over the place. Like I said, it's basically anywhere where a nerve has to come to the surface. a lot of the stuff you hear about, like pressure points, what they're actually referring to are places where those foramen are. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but as I'm rattling it a little bit here, I can hear stuff moving around inside. There's some loose stuff still in there. So I think I'm probably am going to be able to get some stuff out when I run some water through this. Which you guys aren't going to be able to see, unfortunately, because we don't have a sink anywhere nearby. That's going to have to be in a different room, off camera. But I think, at least for the time being, I'm just going to do one last pass with the rag here, and we're going to call this good. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.